It was late October when I arrived at Ravenwood House, a decaying Victorian mansion perched on a lonely hill outside the town of Millfield. The locals avoided the place, speaking in hushed tones about the screams they claimed echoed through its halls at night, about shadows moving behind windows when no one was inside. I was alone, except for my curiosity. The house was worse than I had imagined. Ivy snaked up the brick walls, partially blocking the cracked windows. The paint was peeling, and the front porch sagged under years of neglect. I hesitated, the chill of the evening wind pricking at my skin, before finally stepping through the door. Inside, the air smelled of damp wood and dust. Floorboards groaned beneath my feet, and cobwebs clung to chandeliers that hadn't been polished in decades. There was a faint rustle above me, like footsteps in the attic. The furniture was covered with yellowed sheets, and in every corner, the shadows seemed too heavy, too dark. Agnes, the housekeeper, met me at the door. She was a frail woman, bent over with age, her eyes sharp and wary. "Room assignments," she said in a low voice. "East wing is off limits. Mirrors, do not look into them after dark. And the small door under the stairs, never open it." I smiled nervously. Superstitions, ghost stories. I had always believed that fear was more powerful than any spirit. The first night passed quietly, save for the occasional groan of the house settling. But on the second night, I woke to a whisper, soft, almost too faint to hear. "Emily." I froze. "My name isn't Emily." The whisper came again, more urgent this time. My heart raced as I glanced around the room. The moonlight streaming through the curtains reflected on the large mirror leaning against the wall, and in its reflection, I saw something impossible. My lips hadn't moved, but my reflection smiled. Not a natural smile, something twisted. I blinked, and it was gone. Just my reflection, staring back at me normally. I shook my head, blaming stress, exhaustion. But the whispers continued every night, growing louder, more insistent. They came from the mirrors in the hallways, in the bedrooms, even from the polished surfaces of old furniture. I began recording them, but every playback was static. And yet, in the static, I could swear I heard faint cries pleading for help. On the third night, my curiosity got the better of me. I explored the forbidden east wing, moving silently past the rusted hinges of the locked door. The wallpaper was peeling, revealing blackened walls beneath. A faint smell of decay hung in the air. In the center of the room stood a full-length mirror, and in it I saw them. Faces, hundreds of them, pressed against the glass, eyes wide in terror, mouths open in silent screams. Their lips moved, forming words I couldn't understand. The whispers became louder, filling my head, driving me to the edge of panic. I fell backward, heart hammering. When I looked again, the mirror reflected only me. I realized then that the house wasn't just old, it was alive, and it was hungry. Agnes's warning about the small door under the stairs haunted me. Every creak in the hallway, every flicker of shadow led me to it. One stormy night, the whispers were unbearable. They were no longer just murmurs. They were calling me, begging me, almost commanding me to open the door. I trembled as I turned the rusty knob. The door gave way to a narrow staircase, descending into pitch-black darkness. My flashlight barely cut through the black. The air was cold, suffocating, smelling of damp earth and old rot. At the bottom was a room lined with mirrors, floor to ceiling, wall to wall. Mirrors reflected not me, but the missing. Faces from the town who had disappeared over the years, frozen in fear. Their eyes pleaded, mouths silent. The whispers became a chorus. "Join us, forever." I stumbled backward, One mirror rippled like water. A hand reached through, pale and skeletal, almost brushing my cheek. I screamed, retreating, but the door slammed shut behind me. The mirrors seemed to multiply. No matter where I ran, they were everywhere, reflecting rooms I had never seen, halls that twisted impossibly. Shadows moved independently of the light. I tried smashing the mirrors, but they were unyielding, almost liquid to the touch. Every strike was met with an agonized scream that echoed in the room, shaking the walls. I discovered old journals hidden in a drawer. They told of the house's first owner, a man obsessed with capturing souls. He had crafted the mirrors not to reflect, but to trap. Every missing person became a reflection, a prisoner, unable to escape. And the house itself? It fed on the fear of its victims, growing hungrier with each soul it claimed. The whispers intensified. They called my name, taunted me, promised that resistance was useless. Every reflection I passed moved independently, sometimes stepping closer to the glass, reaching out. I resolved to fight. Armed with a hammer and a kerosene torch, I attacked the mirrors one by one. Each shattered mirror released a scream that echoed like 1,000 voices. Faces dissolved into black smoke, drifting into the shadows of the room. But the largest mirror remained, the centerpiece of the room. My own reflection stared back, smiling wider than humanly possible. It spoke, "You cannot leave. You belong here." The glass rippled. I felt a force pulling me toward it. I swung the hammer desperately, but the reflection lunged, wrapping its hands around me. Pain exploded through my body. I felt my soul being tugged, pulled into the cold, liquid surface of the mirror. Everything went black. I woke in my apartment, soaked in sweat. The Ravenwood House was gone, or had I imagined it all? But when I glanced at the mirror across from my bed, I froze. My reflection smiled, and behind it, a pale, twisted face pressed against the glass, whispering my name. I ran from mirrors. I covered reflective surfaces. I tried to convince myself it was a hallucination, but at night, I still hear whispers through the walls, shadows moving just beyond sight. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I feel the glass pulling me back, and I know it is patient. Months later, I received a letter with no return address. Inside, a photograph of Ravenwood House, perfectly intact, standing on the hill, mist curling around its walls, scribbled across the bottom in jagged handwriting. "We're waiting for you." I locked my doors, covered my mirrors, but the whispers never stop. I've realized something terrifying. The house is not bound to a place. It's in the reflections, in the surfaces, and one day, it will claim me.